Are you looking for a podcast where you can hear from real people regarding their real dental drama? If so, then you've come to the right place. Join hosts Bethany Petty and Dr. Rena Kuba as we dive into the solutions we've created and the mistakes we've made while managing dental drama. Let's get started.
Well, hello.
Hello.
I'm glad to be back in the closet.
Yes.
I believe I was in the closet, 3 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago?
That was 3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago. And, dude, a lot has happened in the last 3 weeks. And I just keep going, this is why you chose me to be your partner in crime, because the drama, it never stops. It doesn't stop.
I couldn't believe as we were coming together this evening, I was like, what exactly are we going to focus on? Because we could literally build out
5 episodes.
5 episodes. I was about to say the exact same. 5 episodes off of what all has occurred in the last 3 weeks in your practice. And I think hopefully, this is not normal, this amount. I mean, this was an excessive amount of drama that has happened. But I do hope it lets practice owners know, there will be times like this. Mama said there'll be days like this. And there have been days like this.
There's your title for this. Mama said there'd be days like this. So I don't know if I've put myself in here now and life is giving me the drama, so I have fodder for this podcast. I don't know, man. I didn't think I was one who attracted drama, but I just, I would be laughing if it was somebody else, but it's me, and I'm like, fudge, that's me. This is, anywho. Here we are with the fodder, and I think both you and I was like, maybe we shouldn't even talk about any of this, but...
how can we not?
How can we not? I think you and I are still processing and gonna try to figure out, what is the aftermath. So future fodder to come based off of, whatever happens here. Anyway, so you asked me to kick this podcast off, and my intro is, guess what, guys? I get the title, the award, the achievement of setting a record for Bethany Dental Consulting.
Yes.
You informed me that of all of your clients, for over a decade plus of doing this, I set your record for, drumroll please, I'm going to let you say it. Go ahead.
Multiple firings in one day.
So you've never had to fire 3 people in one day for one practice?
No.
So my thought was, is it really just everybody else has good staff except for me or whatever? But something you said a little bit ago made me go, aha. For you, and so it's interesting, as you and I were even a couple minutes before starting this podcast going, how are we, what's our angle here? How should we make this effective with some solid take-home points rather than me just venting about my drama? I think one of the things that I realized is I processed and make the decisions I made one way, and you had a completely different strategic way. Mm-hmm. In the end, we came together, we saw eye to eye, but I'm now realizing we both had a completely different outlook. And even at one point, you said to me last week where you were like, I've been losing sleep over this. And in my mind, I'm like, no, I lose the sleep. You're the one who's the safety net going, I gotcha. I'm like, wait, if we both are on the edge here, then... oh my God, what is this? So I think that's a good thing to think about, that there are different ways. And that makes more sense to me then. It's not that you wouldn't want to fire 3 or 4 or 5 people in a practice. You would just strategically say you're never going to do it all at the same time.
I would never advise it.
You would never advise it. And that never even occurred to me. Mm. So I think that's a good segue into the conversation. Why did I have to fire 3 people? Why all at the same time? Did I just have an emotional breakdown and just lose it? I mean, that could easily be the answer. I'd believe you if you said that. But I think here it was, I even am going back and going, why did I have to do this all at the same time? And so I think that would be good if you're okay with,
yes.
Unless you have a different plan.
No, this is perfect.
Okay, so strategy, Miss Strategic, go ahead. Talk us through this.
So what is interesting about this scenario, first and foremost, I think anytime you're firing somebody, there should be a lot of thought that goes into it. And when you're firing 3 people, it just exponentially complicates the process. And so I think, a takeaway here is take your time to really think through, because on the back side of it, here we are a week removed from having to do these firings, these terminations. And as we talk back through it
Less
again.
than a week.
Less than a week. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, less than a week.
I have blocked it. I think it's a memory that I shall not go back and revisit, because it was incredibly stressful. I normally, as a consultant, do not get stressed about decisions. I think through them deeply, but anxiety they do not give me, because I can usually logically figure out a pretty good plan. And in this particular case, we were having to make multiple decisions simultaneously, and I feel one of the things I feel really good about is that as we dialogued about these 3 decisions, and I know I thought about it deeply, you were thinking about it deeply, that on the back side of it, I can look back and I'm still confident in our decisions. And I think it proves that we really, truly, deeply thought through things. And so I'll kind of lay out the 3 different, because they were 3 different scenarios. 3 different, this was not like these 3 went out and broke HIPAA policies and they all got fired for the same reason. These were 3 completely different reasons, and they just happened to all intersect at the same time.
Perfect storm.
It was perfect storm. So
by the way, just so anybody, to kind of set the stage here, we had, I've got my AR person who's remote, so not counting her, even though she is a key role to our front desk team, our business team. But we have 3 that were in the office, and then 1 that we had she used to work for us, blah, 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 blah. I opted to try to see if this could be a win-win. Mm-hmm. There were reasons we parted ways. We kept it as friendly as you could, but ultimately she wasn't the right fit for the practice. I think she knew it, I knew it, and she chose to resign. And so fast forward now, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, even whatever it is, but we've all kept in touch. And she was in a situation now where I deemed that she had, evolved. Mm-hmm. And not being physically present in the office, maybe being physically present in the office was triggering for her, because she was having to interface with people, and that front desk is a hot zone at all times. So maybe just the maturity needed to evolve, and I thought, okay, this may work out. And it was a timing thing. Again, funny enough, it's like she was happening to be blah 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 blah, and I was like, you know what, this could be a win-win. Why don't you remotely answer our phones? She was never great at phones previously, but again, I thought maybe that was because
of maturity issues.
But also like when you're having to interface with these tough patients all day long, and then the back is asking you for estimates, and then now you're having to. So I just thought maybe like being out of the physical hot seat and not having any of those stresses, and she's in the comfort of her own home, being able to answer calls, maybe this would have a different outcome. So yes. That was not the right decision.
Well, and that's another thing that goes into this whole decision is when we decided to bring this person back on, we're going to nickname these people just to protect identity. And so my nickname for this person has probably always been, but it is more so now, Hothead. And so we're going to call this one Hothead, because very strong personality and just has a little bit of that biting tone, strong choleric. And she was the one that you had previously on your team, went away for several years. One of our key business people at the front resigned and was leaving the practice. We really needed manpower on the phones.
So this was all happening at the end of summer, or at the end of July.
That's
when our key business person resigned. Mm-hmm. And so now I was going to be left with 3 physical people at the front.
Mm-hmm. Plus your remote person.
Well, so that's why we brought her back as remote. Like the timing was just, she happened to be getting into a situation where she was moving, and she
Small
had to
town,
resign at her
very
other
few,
job. And I was like, sure, this one's leaving, that could help us. You be remotely picking up phones, that way the other, would that leave 2 then? No, three. That would leave the other 3 there
to handle all of the operations in person.
Yes.
And so you and I dialogued in depth before we brought Hothead back, because I had my reservations about her, but we both really talked through, this is an opportunity. Let's see how she does. And we're putting her in the perfect scenario to be successful. She should require very little training. We can onboard her quickly. We can get her set up next day if she's available. And if she's helping with the phones, it will reduce the stress on the front. Plus, we were missing some phone calls. We'll catch more phone calls. So logically, it all made sense. But you and I both also said it will be a very short leash. Because of, her past and her hot-headed tendencies, we were both very much on edge with the second we see it going awry, like we will cut ties quickly. And so we did. We did. So that was one scenario. And what happened with her is your associate was auditing phone calls. We had become aware of some phone calls that she handled poorly. And as he was continuing to listen to phone calls, he was becoming more concerned about her level of customer care. And she just had a tone.
And mind you, this is within 1 month.
Yeah.
3 weeks, dare I say?
3 weeks.
Yeah.
He was concerned pretty much immediately. As a matter of fact, I had in one of our one-day trainings, I focused on phones, and we listened to a couple of her phone calls on what not to do. And she was there with us in that training. Well, remotely. She had remoted in. And so this was very quick. It became evident very quickly that she was unfortunately already struggling over the phone. And the key person that we lost that resigned at the front is one of the best I've ever seen on the phone. She is fantastic. And so there was this discrepancy that was already starting to build, and we were nervous about that. Your associate, who is super laid back, him noticing that tone stood out to us.
And so then to add to that onion layer, it was not just her tone and her shortness, her hot-headedness with the patients. So all the same things we had seen before that made her really not be the right fit for our practice. On top of that, she was diagnosing over the phone. Mm. She was, it was just things that are going to get us in trouble. Like these are liability things, and you can't be telling a parent this about their kid, and you can't. So it was just not boding well. And so I think we had decided at that point, some of the calls that he heard that really concerned him. I mean, he's like, I'm looking for one good one. I can't find one, but there's some that are far worse, far more cringeworthy than the other ones. So let's focus on these 3, because these are the 3 that could, from a liability standpoint, could get us in trouble, because she's saying all this, making up dentistry as she sees it, which is mind-boggling regardless. So he was going to have another team member coach her. Well, the week that we were going to coach her, 2 things happened. One, she asked for a week off. She's like, I'm dealing with all of these. She'd basically moved, and the move wasn't working out, and she was going to move back. And I'm like, whoa, spent 3 weeks. But regardless, whatever. So she's like, can I just have the week to get myself settled? Okay. And honestly, I kind of was like, whatever, dude. Like, it's fine. Because now summer's over, and
your extra support will be fine without you.
Whatever. Wasn't worth going down. And then, so we never had, my point of bringing that up is we never had the opportunity in that time frame to coach her again on calls, albeit we'd already done the coaching on calls. And so 2 different coaching opportunities. One was or was it the same time? Was it that verbiage training? Was that the phone call training the same day, or was that 2 separate days?
It was the same day.
Okay, so you came in with my team, and you went over these calls with the team where everybody listened to this audited call. You heard my associate's feedback. Y'all all talked about dialoguing ways to make better conversation and points to get through the phone call. But then you also talked about insurance, verbiage, training, all of that.
Yes.
Which
It's a whole separate.
It is, but I just got to say it right here. We can come back and talk about it. Y'all, I did it. I didn't think I would do it, but I did. I think I get out of network with Delta Dental in like a month. I'm nervous, but it's exciting. When I talked about it a couple of weeks ago, I was really being funny, just trying to make myself laugh. And lo and behold, but like you said, that's a separate episode. So anyway, I've done it. Who has joined me? Are y'all still waiting for my birthday or what? But I did it.
Unite together.
Unite. Come on. Anywho, so you had already come in to not only go over that phone call and the feedback, and guys, this is so important. And then you talked about verbiage. So they were all inundated verbiage. So she'd already had that.
Yes.
Now she's taking a week off after only been working for 3 weeks, part-time. And then the call.
Yes. So she, because of your relationship with Scheduling Institute, you have people registered and they call and essentially
they get a mystery call. Scheduling Institute gives us a mystery call that's part of my membership. So
it's recorded, it's graded, they receive direct feedback from a Scheduling Institute team member, and you have over the years invested a ton of money in this training and pay monthly for that service to get these phone calls, and it's a form of accountability. And we're always aiming for 5 stars, and it's
called 5-star certified.
Yeah,
like you need to be 5 stars. And for my front desk, you have to be 5-star certified. They know that. Mm-hmm. Even when Hothead worked for us before, she's been through that training multiple times and knew it was a big deal back then as well. And so currently in our office, you need to be a 4 or 5 star to qualify for bonuses and things like that. If you're a front desk team member and you get the mystery calls, which I make all my front desk get and be enrolled in, and I pay for each member to be enrolled in to get their monthly mystery call, they need to get a 4 or 5 to bonus.
Yeah.
And that same information is going to come up here when we talk about another scenario too. But let's get back to Hothead here.
So Hothead got a 1 star on her.
Nobody on my team's ever gotten a 1 star.
Nobody gets that. It just 3 stars is somewhat common, unfortunately, but
3 stars is not really common in my practice. It's
not.
After the trainings,
the one that we'll talk about in a minute.
Yes, but besides that,
once they've become 5-star certified, meaning they've gotten the stars that they need, they normally stay at that level. And
especially when there's a bonus on the line.
Yes, they're incentivized for this. Well, Hothead got a 1-star phone call, and that was a big eye-opener for us because we were already concerned about her phone handling, especially in the light of the Delta drop. Man, we need to be on point with those phones and our verbiage. And here we have her primary role is answering the phones, and your associate's concerned about her calls, I'm concerned, and now we've got a 1-star phone call. So pretty big deal. And for me, as soon as I knew she got the 1-star phone call, even before these other 2 scenarios that we'll talk about, I was like, she's got to go. Because in my mind, when you were brought on to be first on phones, you were previously trained in that. You should be able to get right back in line. But just in case you couldn't get right back in line, we had this whole day on verbiage training that you were reminded of how to do this. We listened to your phone calls on what not to do, and nothing changed. And now you got a 1-star phone call. To me, that was the nail in the coffin. Like, you can't do your job. You've got to go. And that was to me a logical decision, and it made 100% sense. Anytime I decide that somebody needs to be terminated, it's usually a difficult decision for me, and it's one that I take very seriously. But in this particular case, I felt very confident that that was the right decision.
And for me, I don't think I had that same level of confidence. All I knew is I was irritated by her because honestly, I wasn't irritated at her. I was irritated at myself, because for me, I was like, you dummy. Like, you thought she had evolved and grown And why would you think that? And so you brought her on. This is solely you, because I'm the one who championed her to you and to our manager. And I was like, hey guys, no, this is going to work. I have faith in this, whatever. And so I was like, was I just too short-sighted because I was so busy trying to make sure that the rest of the front wasn't gonna, be stressed out, and it looks like timing and fate, and look at this, like she happens to be available right when we need the help. And so I was mad at myself, honestly, for making that decision. And then the associate, who was so laid back, for him to be concerned. And then some of these things, anytime you mention a greater liability risk because she's diagnosing over the phone or trying to, I cringe so much with that I, and all of us, like, we spend so much on marketing, and and it's like, so you're basically taking my dollars and flushing them down the toilet because you're rude to the patient on the phone. And I've spent a ton of money in training you on that. So I don't know that the 1 star, I think for me, what I liked about the 1 star was like, aha, I've got an excuse now. I can go with that. Because everything else is arguable, I guess, in a way. Well, your associate's just picking on me, or no, I can fix that, or oh, you didn't train with me, or oh, you didn't, like, so, like, it wasn't, for me, it was kind of more wishy-washy. This was like a neutral party they go by their system. It's not a change system. It's the same system it's always been. And here we go. Like, this is it. There's the evidence we needed. So when you pointed that out, I was like, yes, she's got to go.
Yeah. Yeah. And to me, it was a relatively easy decision. Now, what complicates it is these other 2 scenarios. And again, like I was telling you before we started recording, I think why I struggled so much with these decisions is because I am let's make one big decision at a time. And that felt like a big decision. Even though she had only been on board a month, she was being very helpful by answering the phones, even though doing it poorly. But she was helping with the flow at the front. It was kind of minimizing the loss of that employee that we had. And it was somebody we were familiar with. Again, I wanted it to work out. But it felt like one big decision. We can move on from that. That was a bad decision. Let's get over that. And that is how I like to make decisions, because then I can see the domino effect. Like, okay, we terminate this position, but okay, what does that lead to? And then how's that going to impact this person? And what are we going to do to solve that? Because she was helping with this. And I can solve all of that on the back end. It's when you combine lots of big decisions at the same time that it becomes very hard to see the long-term impact. I have a hard time strategizing that because there's so many different layers that are unknown. Whereas when it's one decision, you can clearly see, you can predict multiple different layers for that one scenario. Well, now you put multiple all in the same one, and there's like different root structures, and you're like, where's this thing going to go?
Cobweb of a weaved, funky mess.
And all of it impactful. All of it impactful to the business. And so for me, Hothead was an easy decision, but it was exactly at the same time that 2 other things happened. And so the 2 other things we'll call...
Let's talk about the underachiever next.
Okay. I think that's perfect. And that's the perfect title for her. Totally opposite of Hothead. Sweet. Endearing. Like, you just love this person. Like, there's just something about her that makes you smile. I'm not a natural hugger, and I don't know. I just felt like I always wanted to hug her. Just cute, sweet. But underachieving. And we've known she's been underachieving for a long time.
And the hard part of that, though, it's not like she meant to underachieve. Because when I hear the word underachiever, I think of somebody that's like, no, I could do 5 pages of reading, but I'm just going to do 1. That's what I think of as underachieving. Mm-hmm. She was the opposite. Like, she was trying to read, instead of 5 pages, she was going to read 8. The problem is, she didn't read any of them. Like, none of it made sense. So,
right. The effort was there. Without a doubt, the effort was there. And that's what made this that much harder, because she was trying. She truly was trying. There was just a ceiling there that we could not push past.
And you know me, I try to repurpose. If this isn't working for you, let me put you over here. If this isn't going to work for you, let me find a different seat. And we had tried a couple of different seats, and I'm like, she's just not going to click in any seat. I think in our practice, I think she needed to go and be in a perio or endo practice that was slower.
Yes.
That is where she would have done well. And I think the average person who struggles in a pedo office, because it's like, but what do people say? It's like pedo's general on steroids. Like there's so many patients, so much stuff going on.
Volume, yep.
And I think that was just eating her alive. So that's why she was really tough, because you saw that she was really trying. She really gave it her all. Yeah. So I just wanted to clarify that. Because when I think of underachieving, I'm thinking of somebody who's just lazy. She was the opposite of lazy.
Absolutely. I would agree 100%. And I would say we repurposed, we reduced down her role as much as we could to make it easy and attainable for her. We coached and we coached and we coached. And I think we would have been happy to continue coaching for a period of time. Unfortunately, what happened is she also got a 1-star phone call. And then I felt like we were in this ethical, moral crisis. Because for me especially, who can be so logical, so quick to make decisions, it's like, okay, facts are facts. Hothead got a 1-star and underachiever got a 1-star. Yeah, they both go. But it's connected. They're together. And so then I started rationalizing, well, no, we can't make 2 major decisions at the same time. Like, that's too impactful for the practice. We can't do that. So then I start having to ask myself my own questions. Well, then how do you pick which ones? And there are preferences that come into play there that to me feel unethical. Where I could clearly choose, if I had to choose, I would clearly have chosen not to terminate the underachiever. Because she's just sweet and she tries and there's something very endearing about her. But then I start asking myself, and I'm like, Bethany, that's not fair. Like, you can't hold one to this standard of you get a 1-star phone call that nobody gets in this practice, you're fired. And then now your sweet little underachiever does the same thing, and you're like, oh, it's okay. We'll try again. That felt very wrong to me.
Well, it felt wrong to you, but also I'm sure you're thinking about part of why it felt wrong is then the liability I opened myself up to from a workforce perspective or HR perspective. How am I going to get out of that one? Right. Mm-hmm. And for me, I'm like, I don't care. Like my fear was, okay, well, I've got 3 people at the front desk and then this pseudo person, this part-time remote person we've brought in to help these 3. And now we're canning her and I'm losing one of the 3. Like, what am I going to do? So I was really, and again, then she's so sweet and so, like she just walks in the office and makes everybody happy just because she's so precious. And I'm like, and that's the person that we're going to cut? Like, yes, logically she's an easy cut because there was, she would do 3 things great and then do 4 things terrible. So it's like we're constantly it felt like a baby pooping all around the office. Mm-hmm. It's like, get in the potty already. You know what I mean? Like, it just felt like we were always cleaning up some mess of hers. And it's not like she was new. She'd been there almost a year. And it's like we've seen and she's the one that you were just alluding to a few minutes ago about, she's the one who kept getting these 3 stars. And we kept bringing it up to her. Like, you can't be a 3-star. You've got to rise above that. And so then to be hit with the 1-star.
Yeah.
So that was making things very murky for me. And so I think you had pretty much convinced me that they both needed to go. And we were like, we'll be okay. The 2 that are left, things are about to slow down. We're about to drop Delta. Mm-hmm. It'll be okay. Like, things are going to slow down. This will work out. Mm-hmm. And I think I was, what was it? You were going to come on Friday. You actually had an admin day Friday. Mm-hmm. But you had agreed, out of the generosity of your heart, to drive all the way to my practice to fire the one over the phone, the remote one over the phone, and then you were going to fire underachiever in person, because I was like, I cannot do that by myself. I'm going to really struggle with that one. And I think, and part of me too kind of went, okay, but she's been making mistakes right and left. Like, every mistake that can be made multiple times, she's done it. Mm-hmm. But we've been so busy, and then we weren't expecting the resignation of that one employee. I think we would have let her go at the end of the summer and maybe try to coach a little bit or talk about something. But then the other one left, and we're like, well, let's keep her on a little bit longer. And I was like, so if I fire her now for all of these, multiple mistakes, it's going to look like it's come out of nowhere to her because she's been making multiple mistakes.
And we've kept it going on.
So how is this going to be any different? And I was like, I can't look her in the face and say, sorry, I've had enough. When it's like none of these are bad enough that it's not, they're in the same vein of all are bad. Not collecting payments, answering phones the wrong way, scheduling the wrong way, not, you name it, not getting consent forms, not doing, and somebody who really, has, in theory, the intelligence. She has a degree. She's got things. So I don't know what to say about all of that. But the point is, I do know what to say. I think it was just too overwhelming for her. She was trying her best to keep up, but this was clearly not the right fit. But my thought was, how am I going to say that to her? And that's where you and I were like, okay, but that's where we rally behind this one star, because that's really like, instead of going up or maintaining your 3,
you've gone backwards.
Like way back. Nobody gets a 1.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh wait, the hothead just got a 1 too. Like, what is going on? Yeah. And I think for me then to be irritated, disappointed, all of the above, that I've taken a production day, closed down the office, brought you in to train specifically on verbiage. And this was the result of that. Mm-hmm. So what is it? Is it you and I? Is our verbiage training so terrible that they both got 1 stars? Is that?
Like, here's the takeaway. Get better training, okay?
So to me, it's just kind of like, is there no, I don't know. Is it just in one ear and out the other? This is just shits and giggles that we're sitting here and just training just to say we're training? Like, no, I'm investing a lot of money in this. And the expectation is you will improve and you will do better. And to not see that happen is just really, really disappointing and irritating. Anyway, you were coming in Friday to term her. Mm-hmm. And I was still kind of like hemming and hawing like I do. Are we sure? And then I want to say, so that was going to be last Friday. And then it was Wednesday evening. Like, I was home. So it was Wednesday, like 4 or 5. And I get a call from my manager. And she's like, so... And I'm like, what? Because y'all remember this, so I got to tell you something? Y'all remember the last time I heard, so I got to tell you something was when the sensor went missing. And so I was like, oh, God, what? What is it? And she said, well... So I'm going to just say we're going to call scenario 3 the thief.
Yes.
And I think this is a good stopping point here.
The thief.
Thanks for joining the conversation today. We hope that you are comforted in knowing that you are not alone, but we also hope that you're walking away with some really great tips and tricks to try in your practice. We value your feedback, so please take a few moments to rate and review the podcast. Finally, we want to make sure that we're covering the topics that matter to you. So track us down on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and let us know what topics you want us to cover. As always, please know that we are rooting for you today as you manage your dental drama.